Hello and welcome to another game review. To start this off, I want to ask a question. What's up with all these Viking themed games these days? I am not sure if it's just my imagination, but I feel like Vikings have been getting overexposed lately. Ever since Jotun came out, I have noticed many games taking this route, like Hellblade for instance, or For Honor, even though it isn't just a Viking themed game. And what about the new God of War coming out? And even the latest Titan Quest expansion, like after 10 years. Too bad none of these games give us the real experience of what being a Viking was like back in the days, which would be more akin to controlling a group of proto-Scandinavians and pillaging defenseless monasteries and villages in Western and Central Europe. But I shouldn't tangent too much. Let me tell you about my thoughts about Northgard. Looking at the screenshots, I wasn't quite sure about what to expect from this one. It actually looked like a grand strategy game at the outset. It started off by telling me to make scouts and base in production buildings and to assign villagers to them. At this point, I noticed something that I knew that would be a problem for me later on in the game. The control of the units is, how to put it, semi-automated. Villagers are assigned to certain buildings after which they are just left to do their thing, besides champions, military units and scouts. Unless the map tile actually gets attacked, at that point all the units in the tile go full suicide mode and fight enemies no matter what type they are. I swore under my breath so many times when tens of my villagers, some woodcutters, some traders and so on, attacked a giant and I wasn't able to move all of them in time because the unit control is just so unintuitive. When warriors huddle up together with the villagers, there is no easy way to move them separately. You can either try to mark them with a mouse and move them out, which isn't reliable because it's hard to tell if you will accidentally mark a troop that you didn't want, or you can double click, which works only on units of the same type, which is a problem if you have, for instance, 3 types of villagers and 3 types of armed units at the same time. And worst of all, I had to send them to another territory every time because these suicidal twats just went back to attacking the enemy even though I ordered them away. But all of this is overshadowed by the seasonal mechanics of the game. What this means is that in-game time constantly passes and when winter comes everything freezes over and the resource gain is halved. This makes the game really unpredictable and actually makes the player think upfront about spending resources before the winter. If in some case the resources run dry, the villagers get cranky and stop spawning or just get sick and die out. This mechanic torpedoed so many of my games just because I thought that I had few more minutes left before the winter hits. And even though it's rough, I love this mechanic. But what I don't love are the really weird difficulty spikes that happen during few missions. But that might just be nitpicking, and it doesn't take too much from the overall feel of the game. The campaign is quite straightforward when it comes to the story. The main character is the leader of a Viking clan whose chief just got killed by an opposing Viking clan that conducted a raid to steal an old heirloom horn that was in the main character's family for ages. So, half of the game is a revenge plot, after which it just gets fantastic. And not to spoil anything else, I will just mention that I love most of the characters in this game. They have obvious and separate personalities, and sometimes they even clash between each other, and that results in hilarious scenes like the one when one of the leaders said to the others that they should take into consideration the feelings of sheep when I had to resolve a dispute between 2 giant factions about who should get the sheep actually. The missions themselves are quite interesting. There are missions where I could go full Zerg mode and just plow all the way through the enemy base, while sometimes I choose to go the peaceful route and just search for a way to appease both sides. While the missions are well crafted, I did experience drastic difficulty curves at times. One of the earliest missions made me switch to easy mode, while some of the missions after it were so easy that I was able to do them on hard difficulty. I am not sure if this was intentional or just a lack of polish. But besides this, many parts of the game are actually quite well polished. I love the graphics and music of the game. They are stylized and I love the way everything sounds. Okay, maybe not everything. I don't like the repetition of the unit sounds whenever you click on them or order them around. At one point, I thought about how good of a remix you could make with all their voices. And the narrator confused me too a lot. He spoke with a normal English accent, but whenever a name appeared like Uden or some other place or beast, the narrator spoke it in such an exaggerated fashion that it made me flinch every time. I guess this was done for authenticity's sake, but it felt out of place nonetheless. So, to wrap this all up, Northgard is quite a fun strategy game, and even though I got annoyed so many times because of its unit control, I still liked it a lot. It's nothing groundbreaking from the gameplay side, and even less story-wise, but it is surely bound to entertain strategy game enthusiasts for at least a while, and its low price is just another reason as to why you should get it. As always, goodbye, and thanks for listening.